Good morning and welcome to the November Chair's Breakfast. Thank you all for coming. I have only one real remark to make, and that is for all committee chairs to remember that we have the 2020 town meeting preview meeting on December 7th at 8 o'clock. We usually hold it in this room. I know it's in this building, but I didn't double check to see what room it is in. And that is the meeting that we will essentially hear from all the town committees and any individual citizens who have warrant articles that they're contemplating having on the town meeting warrant. That day will be brief. It doesn't take a lot of time. If you have a warrant article, you don't need to have it polished or ready to go. You just need to be able to report out. So we try to get a sense of what's coming for the town meeting. It's particularly important for citizens who have warrant articles to be at that meeting to let us know what's coming down the road. So that's December 7th here in this room at 8 o'clock. What?
8 o'clock.
Yeah, 8 o'clock, 8 a.m. We should be through by 9:30. It really doesn't take that amount of time. For those committees that I know, like Matt's committee, that I know are going to have a number of warrant articles, you don't need to have them printed out or anything. You just need to be able to report them. If you do have a draft of the warrant article already, bring it with you.
Oh, okay, well, we have.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So we can start to get a handle on what's going on, and then the warrant will be open. And I think the warrant closes January 10th, if I'm not mistaken.
We need to bring paper copies. I think we have, the drafts are on our website.
Yeah, you could bring a couple of copies, one for the select board and one for the moderator.
Okay.
But if you don't have it fleshed out, that's not a problem. If you need some kind of legal review of your warrant article, let us know and we can see if we can have counsel review it for you. So normal practice, we'll go around the room, but before we do that, I think two folks said they had to get out of here, so why don't we do you two guys, and then we'll come back to Wally. So Keith, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, I'm Keith Bergman. I'm chair of the newly formed Affordable Housing Trust Study Committee, and which meets at 8:30 elsewhere in town. So, thanks for being here. Is it the practice also to go over quickly what we're doing?
It is the practice in 2 minutes to go over.
We are working on drafting a general bylaw to create an affordable housing trust fund. On the heels of this year's annual town meeting vote to adopt the state statute authorizing a town to do so. The package of articles for housing that was passed at town meeting this year included accepting the state statute for an affordable housing trust fund. Our study committee has been tasked to come up with a draft bylaw to create the fund. We are in the process of finalizing a working draft in the hopes of being able to circulate it among other interested groups. We've got a meeting that's just been scheduled on December 5th for housing stakeholders to have a chance to look at that document as well, and we're bringing it to the selectmen on December 16th.
Thank you.
I'm Jeff Baking from the Concord Community Housing Development Corporation. The main item we've been working on this year is the acquisition of 930 Main Street on the other side of Route 2. It's a single-family house that's been pretty run down. And the conveyance, we've been working with Habitat for Humanity in Lowell. The conveyance is expected to happen next week. From there, Habitat will go forward with plans to convert it into a duplex connected to the sewer. And hopefully we'll have some building permits in the spring, or they'll develop it into a duplex. Junction Village, the development was just awarded over $400,000 in home funds. That's a federal grant for affordable housing essentially, and that's more than the $200,000 that they had asked for. And they expect to apply to the state for more funding in February of 20.
Terrific, and then they will apply for tax credits in the next round, which they hopefully will get in July, and we'll be
Yes.
off to the races by.
Right, I think that'll be an issue, I think, but
Yeah, I'll always,
not today.
and we're going to start with
Thank you.
Wally, but the town moderator is here, so we'll start with the town moderator. And I did announce that, not seeing you here, that about the preview meeting
On the 7th?
on the 7th.
Okay. And the warrant opens that day. The questionnaire results are completed and compiled in a memo, and I will be these are from last year's town meeting on a variety of topics, including what time we start town meeting, whether or not, and if so, how to use electronic voting. And there were a few other questions as well, and I'll be bringing that to the select board, and then it will be over to them on advising the town manager as a policy matter whether or not the additional expenditure for electronic voting makes sense in view of the rest of the budgetary demands and the Finance Committee's guidelines. And the town, there was a 51% majority that was in favor of using electronic voting for 2/3 and counted votes. So that's a majority, but it's not a mandate, and there were a lot of people who felt otherwise. So I think that this decision could go in any direction. And I should note that there was a number printed in the Concord Journal last week that it would cost $199,000 to implement electronic voting. I have no idea where that number came from, but it is an error. And we actually have a proposal from the company that gave us the demonstration last year, and it would cost $11,000 with on-site help and under $8,000 if we didn't have the on-site help and did it ourselves. So.
Okay, thank you. Wally?
Before I start, is anybody here to talk about the middle school building committee? Okay, I can give an update on that. The schools are well into the budget process. It's been our primary focus the last month and a half. We will present the regional and the CPS budgets to Concord FinCom tomorrow night and Carlisle FinCom on Monday night. And I think based on the preliminary discussions we've had with them, those discussions should go fairly smoothly based on the need. It's a second year of our zero-based budgeting process, and that with some additional revenue from the state has put us in pretty good stead for the year. There will probably be a capital warrant from the high school for parking, which we brought last year, but we'll separate it from the road project. And just to give you a sense, the fall play is being done this weekend, the Laramie Project, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Tickets are available. I'm sure it'll be a great production. We had great success with the band folks for Ball State. I think we had 8 first chair and half a dozen alternates, which is a great showing. Girls won the state cross-country championship over the weekend. So things are happy up there. The middle school building project, I'm not on that, but Heather was unable to join us, so I'm going to give you a quick update on that. The big objective of the committee over the last month has been selecting a design firm. They have done that. 20 firms bid for the project, and through a process of about 10 hours of vetting, they narrowed it down to 2, and then selected SMMA out of Boston, who's done some buildings around here, and everybody seems to be very excited about that. The other piece of work that they've been doing is learning more about sustainability. We've got a sustainability subcommittee of the building committee made up of people who professionally are engaged in that space. And that was one of the significant criteria in selecting a design firm. The committee is working on community engagement activities to be able to explain what we're doing to people, to give folks an opportunity to come hear about the project and the process, and to lead up to a request of the town for funding. And so there'll be different events. There is also an email list that if people would like to be on, they can reach out to the building committee through the website, which is the concordps.org/CMS-building-project, or to their email address, which is msbc@concordps.org. If anybody would like to give me an email address to pass on to them to be on that list for updates, I'm happy to do it. So that's pretty much it.
Appreciate it, Brian.
Brian Bowles. I'm the chair of the Sustainable Energy Committee, the Climate Action Advisory Board. And we've been working on a climate action plan with our consultant, KLA, and they are getting to the point now where they're ready to stop reading all our reports and getting up to speed on what Concord's been doing and actually get out into the community, so you'll start to see them a lot more around town. One of the big events that we have coming up, I have a handout here for the open house over at the high school. This will be held on December 11th at 4:30 to 7:30 p.m. and it's an open house, so you can drop in. There's no scheduled program. It's just going to have activities, booths, people there to take intake on your thoughts of sustainability in Concord. And generally, we last meeting we had a great discussion with Harvey Michaels from MIT about electrification, and we continue to do that work, and we're hoping to get this report done by mid next year.
Great. Thank you. Morning.
Hi, I'm Paul Bohm. I'm here representing two committees, both involved in the nuclear metals StarMet Superfund site in West Concord. So let me start with the 2229 Main Street Oversight Committee, which has been hard at work for a number of years. It was a banner month for both committees. On the cleanup, which has been going on steadily for a number of years, the final big push was to get the government to file a consent decree, which is an agreement between all the parties responsible for financing, paying for the cleanup. That occurred finally on October 9th. It was filed in federal court. There was a 30-day comment period, which I think closed just recently. Comments are being assembled, and it will be filed with the court and will become official, which will start the whole final phase of the cleanup of the site. There's been cleanup going on for a number of years. Something like $80 or $90 million already spent. This is $125 million for basically the final cleanup of the soil to prepare it for reuse, which is the second committee I'll get to in a minute. So the remedial design will begin. There are consultants and contractors on site to do that, and that will progress through the first half of next year to the design of how to implement the cleanup. The town has been involved in the planning for that, the cleanup of the site for a number of years, but this is the final stage, so we're really happy about that. So turning to the second committee, which is the fairly new Nuclear Metals NMI StarMet Reuse Planning Committee. We're looking for an acronym. Which we're blessed to have two resources on the committee. One is EPA has given us one of their contractors, very skilled in reuse planning and community involvement, and they've been helping us sort of with the initial planning efforts and the outreach to the community, which I'll get to in a minute. The other thing we've been blessed to have Marsha Rasmussen on the committee, kind of helping us along, which is she's a vital resource. We've been active since mid-year in discussing within the committee possible reuses of the site. We've gone out to several committees here to discuss possible reuses and get thoughts. That is an ongoing process. The last part, which was a major milestone, was to hold an open public meeting, a workshop, which occurred on October 17th. Downstairs, we had 2 sessions. We had about 75 people breaking into groups, and it was a real workshop to get the thoughts of possible reuses, which had a wide and wild range of uses. The committee now is taking that information, is assembling those into various concepts. Concepts could be indoor concepts, outdoor concepts, what are compatible uses of the site. And I think those uses range across the board from recreation, indoor, outdoor, community centers, parking, transit centers, housing, offices. So there's nothing off the table right now. But our next charge is to assemble those into concepts and to meet with the select board and brief the select board probably early next year in February, because it's an ongoing process. So, and an important part of that, just to finish, is to liaise with EPA. EPA is, the contract will be cleaning up the site, and they've asked us, we have options, EPA has options, what to level and where to move dirt, and what do you guys want to do with the site, because we would like to help you kind of prepare the site as much as they can in the whole cleanup process. So feeding them these concepts early next year, it's not design, it's not, we're far away from actually nailing this down, but giving them the idea so they can start their work in the site. We will have further public meetings as we flesh out these concepts after we brief the select board to get more public input on that. So that's the update.
Yeah, you had 2 public hearings, actually. 5:30 and then 7. You had
Right.
2 turns at the wheel, but it was upstairs, not downstairs.
Right.
Thank you. That's a lot of progress by the
Yeah, it was a
Reviews
good,
Committee. That's
good
great.
month.
Thanks.
My name's Doug Sharp. I'm the new chair of the Comprehensive Sustainability Energy Committee. And CSEC, called CSEC. CSEC is working as an all-volunteer committee of informed and concerned Concord residents. The committee works to support and advocate and to be a watchdog for sustainable energy practices in Concord. Our intention is more to engage residents of Concord to become more aware of the role that we all must play in order in the next 3 decades to become responsible for our energy future. We work in concert with Concord State Sustainability Director, Kate Hanley, to represent sustainability-focused practices in Concord and to volunteer with seasonal events that are being coordinated through her office. CSEC advocates for greenhouse gas emission compliance goals that had been set for the town. Basically, that the town and the citizens of Concord would be committed to reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 25% by 2020 and by 80% by 2050. And the largest part of that comes through 2 elements. One is converting electricity that we use in non-greenhouse gas emitting sources. We have our own electric company, and we'll be doing work in conjunction with them in the next 2 years. We're also advocating for electrifying buildings, homes, and vehicles to largely eliminate the use of fossil fuels. CSEC has been working alongside the Climate Action Advisory Board, which is engaged with the development of Concord climate resiliency planning, whereas the CAAP is involved with the evolution of new sustainability policies in Concord as they develop a resiliency strategy. The CSEC committee is more involved with the engagement of Concord residents with learning about and adopting new sustainable approaches and practices. We're engaged with trying to develop a climate sustainability narrative that's appropriate for the town. in 2019 and 2020, we're working on a project to develop a pamphlet and a poster called Your Sustainable Future Home Now. It's time to bring energy savings home. We're planning and developing some of the educational programming around that and a residential engagement fair type event to be held in the spring of 2020 at the high school. And we'll probably be using a tabling event strategy approach that is similar to what we've done in the last 2 or 3 years. Last year, we had a landscaping sustainability fair, and the year before that, we had a Cooler Concord fair that had to do with homes. The tables and the representatives of the event will be geared around the theme of Your Sustainable Future Home, which can be worked on right away. More of the process is being developed here, and our first goal is to develop the pamphlet, and the second goal is to develop needed engagement and involvement to draw Concord residents' attention to it. So that's sort of the gist of where we're coming from.
Thank you. Appreciate it. We've already heard. Yes. Morning.
Rick Geithler, I'm the Concord Housing Authority. The newest thing for us is we just got approval from the Public Works Commission to connect our new little house on Commonwealth Avenue, which is otherwise known as the Giroux property, but it's going to be 367 Commonwealth. There was an issue as to whether this was going to be able to connect to the sewer or not. So with a lot of help from Marcia and support letters from various housing advocates and the Board of Selectmen, we got our approval to connect to the sewer. So we're all set on that regard. And it's the other progress we've made is that we have DHCD, Department of Housing and Community Development, has agreed to help us with the project, not financially, but with support, kind of project support. They are helping us choose an architect from their house doctor list of pre-approved architects. So we're very close to having an architect chosen for this project. We have a project number for this project. Even though they're not funding the project, it will be a local initiative project approved by DHCD. So it'll have a project number. So it'll be pretty close to ready to proceed once we get the state to sign off on the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail crossing of the Giroux access road.
That's great. Well, that's some real progress. Good. Matt?
Matt Johnson, Planning Board. So I'd like to take advantage of Brian's superior organization skills and have you look at this flyer.
Oh, it's
and
all
instead of this saying Sustainable Concord Open House, it would say the Planning Board Zoning Initiatives Public Forum, which is tomorrow night, November 21st, here at the Townhouse hearing room. And it'll be from 6:30 to 8:30. We will have an initial about half-hour overview presentation of the 4 major initiatives that we're pursuing for town meeting this, well, 3 of the 4 we're pursuing for town meeting this coming year. 1 is for a subsequent year, but still of great public interest. And those are to simplify the process of creating an accessory dwelling unit, to enable 2-family housing within the Residence C zoning district, to tighten up some of the provisions of the planned residential development bylaw, and then finally to prepare future mixed-use zoning for the Thoreau Depot Business District. So they're very, substantial initiatives. We are especially looking for attendance and feedback from the school committee, because these initiatives are likely to have impact on our school population, and we need to assess the degree to which those are occurring. We need help from the finance committee because there are overall town budgetary impacts, and they're going to need to weigh in on those for town meeting anyway. And then the third is the Public Works Commission, because there are sewer and water implications, especially for the 2-family hookups. So that's the most important thing. Tomorrow night, 6:30 here. The second thing is just to talk about, we did come to a conclusion as a committee about what we are proposing for the planned residential developments bylaws, and that is, first of all, to increase the required open space from 25% to 33%. We found that that's much more in line with our neighboring towns. It also, except for one development, is the level at which all non-affordable housing PRDs have achieved in the past. So we feel like we should legislate that. And so we'll be talking about that tomorrow night, but we're also proposing for PRDs to mandate low impact design and or low impact development, LID, for stormwater, and then secondly, green building design. So that's going to become part of the bylaw. We're also going to enforce site plan review for PRDs, which currently does not occur as it does for other projects like the library project. And then finally, we are going to propose ourselves to be the permitting authority rather than the ZBA. Right now, we go through a whole process with the developer, develop a recommendation that then goes to the ZBA where they actually issue the permits. We are going to kind of streamline that by just becoming the permitting authority. The final thing I wanted to mention was there's been, we've had a number of meetings around a planned residential development on Main Street in West Concord. That was initially scheduled to come back before us at our meeting next Tuesday, but now it won't happen until December 10th.
This is 1441 or
1440 and 15-something hundred Main Street, yeah.
Okay.
And I think 11B Highland, you know, there's this, it is right at the corner of Highland and Main Street.
Yeah. Great.
Thank you. Tom Kearns, I'm Vice Chair of Community Preservation, sitting in for John Cratsley, Chair, who couldn't be here this morning. We have 13 applications this year, totaling total requests of about $2.6 million. We have projected available funds of about 1.7, so we've got about a $800,000 to $900,000 gap. We've got a projection of a little bit of state surplus coming in, maybe another $50,000 or so. We are in the second of 3 meetings to review these applications and make our final recommendations on December 3rd. It's a challenging year. The committee's been working hard. We've got a couple of religious organizations that have filed applications, and so we face some anti-aid church and state issues that we're working on with town council, and one federal park application, so we're kind of working through those issues as well. We're due to get to final recommendations in our vote on December 3rd, and I think we'll get there. So, thank you.
I know you guys have been very busy.
Nick Pappas. I'm sitting in for Greg Higgins from the Natural Resources Commission. I'm the newest member on the commission, so it's been a lot of learning since June when I joined. The commission, the department, are responsible for, among other things, overseeing Concord's conservation lands and has responsibility for those. But most of the work of the commission and much of the work of the department has to do with the wetlands bylaw. And people coming to the commission, as I've learned, with very detailed plans on what they want to do on the property that they have or are about to own or want to develop on that's within 100 feet of a delineated wetland. And it's been a real eye-opener how detailed and how technical that is. I had to go to a workshop just to learn how to read the plans. So it's quite an impact. In fact, I've been going through it myself because I've always wondered, my own property, I'm near a wetland, and I didn't know exactly how close. And I don't propose to put any structures within 100 feet of the wetland. Nonetheless, I want to do some work on removing invasives. And in a case like that, you really should be coming to the Natural Resources Department and seeing what you're doing and getting approval for it. Right. And it's quite a process. It'll cost you a couple $1,000s just to go that far, just to have the land surveyed if that's necessary and have someone come out and flag the wetland. So Anyway.
Almost everybody is within 100 foot of wetlands.
Become aware. There's a nice little brochure available from the Natural Resources Department that explains it very succinctly. There was one other thing, actual news. We had one application from a developer who wanted to build a house lot. The Natural Resources Commission refused to give a ruling on it because of some conflict with the pre-existing orders of condition that have been issued for part of the same property, basically. The developer decided to appeal that to the DEP. Yesterday, I attended an on-site meeting with the developer and DEP, and after the meeting, he decided to withdraw the appeal. So that was good.
That's good to know. Deb, can we start with you, and we'll just kind of snake our way back through the
With me, sure.
cheap seats.
Dr. Deb Green, Chair of the Board of Health. I am happy to report to all of you that the threat of Eastern equine encephalitis, or EEE, is over. We finally had our hard cross, so we can all go outside now. That is really cool. The second thing to report is that, as you may know from previous meetings here, the Board of Health has been working for more than a year on the issue of adolescent vaping, particularly at high school. Surveys have shown that at least 24% of all Concord Carlisle High School students have used vaping materials, and that goes up to 34% in the senior class. And there's numerous health risks with exposing adolescents to nicotine, and not to mention over the summer the emergence of e-valley or e-cigarette or vaping product-associated lung illness, which in our state alone has had over 200 reported cases, 61 confirmed cases, and 3 deaths. And some of my colleagues and I have seen cases of this at Emerson Hospital. So it's most of the cases are for people under 25. So the board has drafted proposed regulation regarding tobacco in the town of Concord. We are proposing to address adolescent use in 2 ways. One is to restrict all flavors from being sold in the town of Concord. Currently, Concord only allows mint or menthol flavored tobacco or e-cigarette products. But these are actually the most common flavors vaped for all age groups. So to completely restrict all flavors, to have a flavor ban would address that problem. And the second part of our proposed regulation is to move the sale of all e-cigarette and tobacco products into adult-only retail stores. These would be stores that you're only allowed in them if you are over, or if you're 21 or over. And typically these stores require an ID before you enter the store. So currently Concord does not have any of those. So this would be an impact for retailers, obviously. But our reasoning was really from a public health perspective, how could we move vaping products into a 21 plus store, but yet leave combustible tobacco products out and available, which are, is the _1 cause of preventable death in the United States. So we thought long and hard. This is the proposed regulation, and we had the first of 2 open public hearings last Monday, and the next one is December 16th. So we are gathering information and listening, and we will continue to discuss and probably vote on something in early next year.
And you have another public hearing scheduled?
Yes, Monday, December 16th, 7 p.m. In the first floor conference room of Prize Road.
Carmen, you had a question?
Yeah, I actually have a question for Matt. Is there anywhere in the zoning bylaw that an adult-only retail store fits in terms of permitted use?
I was trying to, well, when she was talking about that, I was trying to remember that, there are things about like adult establishments, and then there are only certain districts where those are allowed. We have not had any discussion, since the time I've had any, association with the planning board about that, so I can't recall where we stand on that, but...
that might be something that the planning board wants to look at to make sure that the zoning bylaw is in harmony with whatever the Board of Health is up to on this.
But then the other is that certainly as goes with, I mean, marijuana establishments, right? They have been banned in town. So, and I was just flipping the thing thinking, well, if some entrepreneur wanted to open a 21+ store, what would that imply? I mean, that, you know, it might have this kind of odd, ironic outcome of bringing other products into town that we don't currently have, because in order to create a commercially viable establishment, one, you know, might want to offer other products. So that's what I'm just trying to think.
That's exactly where my head
Yeah,
went.
like, is this necessarily a good idea? I just, you know, anyway, sorry, I don't want to get into legislating this,
So
but
perhaps you and Deb could talk
Yeah.
sometime offline. I'll tell you, I've already been,
So I'm not sure that,
well, that, yeah.
so,
I've already been approached by somebody about what's the process for
Right.
creating an adult-only store.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
And
the
I said,
era of
clue.
pornography is kind of past. I'm just trying to think what else is out there.
Well, you know, I guess one question is whether a liquor store could become an adult-only store
Yes.
that sold liquor and cigarettes, and you have to be 21 to go in.
Only store is that it's your primary product would have to be tobacco. So, like, you couldn't have a liquor store
I
suddenly
see.
make itself 21+. So the
That's a legal category.
yes, that's a legal definition.
All right, well,
Let's
So-
see.
So, for example, Cumberland Farms has, we've heard that Cumberland Farms, not necessarily in Massachusetts, in Concord, but they've talked about cordoning off part of their store and making a separate entrance. So that might be, you know, sort of a store within a store or something, I'm not sure, so,
Okay.
That's all, more to come.
more to come.
All right, thank you.
Peter Nobley, Chair of the Historic Districts Commission. Now that the library is behind us for the moment, attendance at our meetings has plummeted. But we still have 6 or 8 new applications every couple weeks. You'll see some nice work going on, for instance, at 15 Monument Street. Patrick McWhinney is renovating that building. It's going to be quite nice. Orchard House is doing some work. So lots going on, but nothing big or controversial coming up. We are down 1 member all of a sudden, so we're going to need a 10th member.
Good, thank you. Todd?
Hi, Todd Benjamin, Chair of the Capital Planning Task Force. Not much to report. We've only had 1 meeting. That was a couple weeks ago. Our next meeting is next Tuesday. The task force is charged with helping to define a process for the town to deal with very large projects. And that will be a process that could be implemented over a 10-year period for the town to deal with things having to do with intersections of finance committee, school, town manager, things of that nature. So there will certainly be more to come, but just wanted to kind of get the word out there that the task force is up and running, that we're meeting, and that we expect to have more headway soon.
Thank you.
Peter Hunter, Chair of the Recreation Commission. We've been busy on a couple of initiatives. One, more or less, turning around the BD Center financially, which I could say has been a success over the last year. Membership has increased, programs have increased, a lot of good activity under the leadership of Andy Dutton. Very pleased about that. A lot of activities at the BD Center. I encourage everybody to look at the website, and there's a lot of good information in there. And with respect to the website, it's a great website. I don't know if anybody, hopefully you've folks have looked at it. It's pretty interactive. It's really good. The one thing it doesn't have, very good, is the kind of 19th century registration capability, which will be upgraded in the next few months, thankfully. It's a long time coming, so it'll be much more user-friendly, and you don't. Most people tend to say, you know what, I give up, I'll fill out a form. This will be much more interactive, hopefully improve the membership. The other initiative was upgrading and improving the visitor center facility and activities. We hired Beth Williams, who comes from the PBD Essex Museum, very high energy person who's got a lot of great ideas to improve the tourism within the town. A lot of things going on, including They're working on destinations on hosting a Little Woman Week in early December in anticipation of the film release, establishing a new website, having extended hours, and of course they host the holiday light tree lighting that's happening on December 1st. And other than that, basketball evaluations were last weekend, and it's in full swing starting in December. And we also are down one member, so if anybody's interested.
Okay, right, thank you. Tom?
Tom Martin, the chair of the Concord Cultural Council. Our next meeting is 6 o'clock tonight at the Recreation Center. We're going to be reviewing 32 applications we received for grant applications we received this year. We requested funding for the 32 applications is $20,430, and we have $6,859 to distribute. So it's going to be a long meeting, trying to figure out who to give what to. All but 6 of last year's applications have been, it works on a reimbursement basis, so once you finish your project, you send in all your materials and your bills and checks, and we reimburse you. All but 6 of last year's applicants have successfully been reimbursed. I've sent a reminder out to the 6 remaining ones to get their paperwork in as soon as possible. And the reason for that is that sometimes a project that has been approved for some reason doesn't happen, and that those funds don't go to the places where they were allocated, and we can use them again next year. So I'd like to have that information.
Thank you. Carlin?
Scott Hopkinson, I'm the chair of the Public Access Television Committee that tries to provide guidance to the Minuteman Network. The committee has met all through the summer. We met every month. This week we actually submitted to the select board our survey work that we had done, which was presented in 2 parts. First, the facts of what we found. We had approximately 300 respondents, so our response level was pretty modest, and then the second part was the recommendations associated with that. We also presented our vision of how we would fulfill the mission and charge that the select board has given us, and with that we also asked the select board to give us some guidance as to what focus percentage we should give to content guidance versus technical versus financial oversight. So I think there's been some this is an area that we wanted to get better clarity on. Related to that, the Minuteman Network budget, which is a town entity at this time, is actually running quite a bit below their target because they hired and then they don't have a number of staff on board, in particular the director of the station. And for that reason, the staff that is there is pretty overworked. They're struggling hard to keep up with the demand for government, for public and education. And so this is an area that I think we'll take up in our next meeting, which is tonight, 7:15 we actually decided to stop meeting here, but actually meet at the studio. So folks want to come to the meeting, they get a chance to walk around and look at their studio. The people who are working there are making mighty efforts to make progress. One of the gentlemen is unearthing and trying to organize both the equipment and all the recorded history that we've captured over the years with the previous entity and with the Minuteman Network. It was in a number of different forms, and they're trying to get that all in one format that's more searchable. That's one of the initiatives we also got out of our survey, which was people who want to look at the content that's available, either online through the YouTube channel or direct, have difficulty in finding it, so there's work going on that front. And finally, discussions about content and which direction the Public Access Television Minuteman Network should go. And they're using a combination of, if you call poor man analytics, we look at view count on YouTube and decide which content is grabbing more interest. At the same time, we're looking at new initiatives in different areas where there's not a lot of content. So there's really no data to support whether or not that content would be of interest. And so that's a balance that we're just trying to work through.
I just would like to commend the Minuteman Network just for the coverage of our planning board meetings. First of all, just the quality of the video and the audio is very high. The quality of the acting is very low, but that's separate. And then there is a feature now available, which is just a full transcript of everything that's been said. So it's searchable. And so if there's a question about what happened in a meeting or something, you just search for those keywords in the transcript and you're right there and can see, exactly what happened. I just think it's a really fantastic for, first of all, transparency in government, but that also just in recalling, what did we say?
Yeah, no, I think the team there, the Minuteman Network team is trying mightily to understand and make improvements in these areas. And these are perfect examples.
Thank you. Let's see who's sitting next to you.
It's in the high school.
It's Happy.
Oh, hi, Happy. I couldn't see you.
I'm Happy Goether from the Ag Committee. As in farming, everything is a little bit slow now. We're working on our spring forum, and our meeting is tomorrow at 7 o'clock in the assessor's office. Our other concern is still the Mill Dam, Millbrook business in the holiday season, which we'll be addressing tomorrow too.
Do you have a date for the spring?
Not yet.
Susan.
Yes, Sue Curtin. I'm a member of the library committee, and we have rotating members that attend this breakfast. We're working hard on connecting with the community and getting feedback. One of those events happened last night. We had about 12 citizens appear with their concerns about the use of Wi-Fi in the children's room, the forthcoming children's room, and teen room when the library is refurnished. And they made a very cogent presentation about routers and the industrial routers that are often used for large spaces. Two members of the trustees were present, including Jeff Adams, and we're recommending that the trustees take up this issue because it is a strong one coming from certain parts of the community. It would be possible to have sanctuary areas where the hard wiring for the Wi-Fi is there, and that reduces the potential damage. So stay tuned.
Okay. Thank you. John?
So I'm John Hickling. I'm not the chair of the Finance Committee, but happy to report that the guideline process is going along very smoothly. We met last Thursday with the town manager, and as we all read in the Concord Journal, this is his dream job, and so the process is going very smoothly there. And I thought I heard tonight Wally say that tomorrow night when we meet with the school administration, superintendent, and finance director, that he expects it to go smoothly. So do I. So
that's bring the other 14 members of your committee along. It'll be probably a productive meeting.
Let's see how it goes. Sadly, tomorrow night we conflict with your meeting. Maybe we can.
No, well, you should come. You should come to our meeting.
I'll ask the chair.
Go and break out into yours.
Where is your meeting, Matt?
It's right here in the town here.
You've got finances in here.
We come to the first half hour.
Well, in fact, we're planning a breakout in this room. One of the breakouts is supposed to be in this room.
I don't think so.
Sounds like that's not happening.
Wow, okay, well, I'm going to tell
Ask our chair if he would designate someone to sit in on
Yeah, I think she's probably trying to force the issue. You guys should be helping us out here. Okay.
Hi, I'm Bill Herring from the Board of Assessors, standing in for Tom Matthews, the chairman. We've calculated the tax rate for next year, submitted it to the selectmen Monday night. I believe it's approved. Assessments should be completed this week. They've been submitted to the state for approval and will be posted online so you can see what the new assessment for your house is. They should be available quite soon, and we're looking forward to a lively abatement season.
And we did approve it Monday, so that's great. Well, Thank you all for.
Oh, wait.
One quick question. Am I correct that the annual reports are going to be due December 31st, and that all the committees have to submit their reports to you?
Well, not to me, but
Who do they get sent to?
I don't know who is going to be the receiver of them, but I will have an email sent out to all the committee chairs about the deadlines and to whom you submit it. So thanks, Carly. Thanks very much for coming. We're adjourned.